Hi, I'm Peggy Venable. I'm your host. You're watching On Point Broadcasting, and our program is Eye on Texas. We're usually on at a different time of the day, but we had an opportunity to get a special guest in the studio. Today I have with me Mark Lucas, who is the State Director of Americans for Prosperity in Iowa. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Good. Well, everyone wants to know what's going on in Iowa, especially leading up to any kind of presidential election. So maybe you can give us kind of a lay of the land. What do Iowans look for, and why is the whole country so jealous of Iowa early on in the presidential election process?
Well, Peggy, it looks like the next cycle started a lot sooner than previous cycles. Right after 2012, Marco Rubio came to visit Iowa with Governor Terry Branstad, held a fundraiser just 30 days after the election. So it started hot and heavy early. Since then, we've had Rick Santorum, Senator Ted Cruz, Wisconsin Senator Rod Johnson. We've had Governor Walker from Wisconsin. So we've had a lot of attention. And I think a lot of the reason why is because Iowa's got a hotly contested Senate race. So a lot of these presidential contenders see an opportunity to come to Iowa early to help people, conservative candidates, and talk about their record as well, to try to increase their name ID, but also show Iowans they care about what's going on in Iowa.
You bet. And of course, at Americans for Prosperity, we really care about economic freedom issues and free market issues. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in that Senate race that you just referenced there in Iowa.
Sure. Well, this is the first time the Senate race has been open in Iowa for over 20 years. We've had Senator Grassley and Senator Harkin there for a long time. So it's a great opportunity for politicos who want to try to climb the ladder to run for the seat. On the Democratic side of the House, you've got Congressman Bruce Braley, who's running pretty much uncontested. And he's got a very poor economic record in Washington, D.C. In fact, he's got a 3% lifetime score on Americans for Prosperity's economic scorecard.
Wow, it's hard to get just 3%, isn't it?
It's almost like you've got to be trying.
You have to be trying.
To get a 3%. He's more liberal than Senator Tom Harkin. He's even more liberal than Nancy Pelosi on our scorecard. So
wow.
I feel like his record in D.C. is out of step with Iowa economic values. Every opportunity he's had to decrease spending, he hasn't. He's increased the debt limit 5 times. He's voted against extending the Bush-era tax cuts that even President Obama said he was going too far on. So he's way out of step when we look at cap and trade, we look at the carbon tax. Definitely out of step with Iowa values. He's relatively unknown throughout the state, so he's got a challenge. And even his campaign admitted early, because of AFP's efforts, he's starting his campaign early because we're educating people on just how bad his record is. And we're doing that with a 99-county tour all across Iowa to let people know what his record is. And if we can, like I tell people in Iowa, the election will take care of itself. What we can do at AFP is just educate people and try to put grassroots pressure on him to change 1 or even 2 votes. That could mean a lot to the American economy. It could mean a lot to Iowa families.
Well, of course, you're right here in Texas now. And when you say a 99-county tour in Iowa, and you'll be all across Iowa, everything's relative. So Iowa, we like to brag here in Texas. There's so much land that traveling the state of Texas is like traveling Iowa, 5 or 6 times.
Absolutely.
But such an important state. I think a lot of the country, we're a little bit jealous that Iowans and people in New Hampshire are so courted early on by these presidential candidates. And you've certainly mentioned a few of our favorites. You said Ted Cruz has been there. Do I understand that you have invited Governor Perry to speak on one of your conference calls, or to speak to some Iowans?
Yeah, I've spoken with Governor Perry and the staff, and they're very excited to help Iowa out. They're very excited about AFP's efforts in Iowa, so I anticipate he'll be doing a teletown hall here shortly in Iowa, and also visiting the state extensively.
I did a radio show this morning and was talking about our Defending the American Dream Summit and some of what we've been doing here in Texas on policy issues. And the joke is always that Governor Perry is traveling the country showing other states how it should be done. Since Texas is the top state for job creation, we're the number one state for businesses relocating in our state. We're the number one exporting state, and we like to say it's because of the good policies here. We don't have a state income tax. We have done extensive civil justice reform, so we have a civil justice system that is fair and regulatory policies that are predictable. We've done a lot of the good policy work and heavy lifting here in Texas that other states are looking to do. So the governor's certainly traveling the country talking about the good policies that have been acted here in Texas. And I just pulled a little bit about Iowa from the Economic Freedom Index and looking at various states, comparing one state to the other. And I know that when it comes to personal freedom and individual liberties, Iowans are pretty strong on those issues, aren't they?
Absolutely. And when you look at the Iowa economy in general, we've got one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country, hovering around 3%. So, Iowa has been kind of a shining spot across the country for jobs, just like Texas. I think Governor Perry, his record since the last time he ran for president is even better. I've seen what he's done by traveling to Illinois and traveling to New York, saying that hopefully these governments will change their policies, but if not, come to Texas.
Right.
I feel the same thing about Iowa. We've got a ways to go to try to match that Texas model, but I feel like with the leadership of Governor Terry Branstad and the leadership of Governor Perry here in Texas, that we're getting on the right track.
Well, and that is so important. I think our cameraman just left, so the camera's on you and you. But we want to have a conversation with our audience here, and I think it is important to note that in Iowa, you do have a net in-migration in the negative. So why are people not moving to Iowa, whereas Texas is growing at about 1,000 people a day?
Sure.
What's the difference in the Iowa economy and the Texas economy?
Well, I think we're eventually changing that. Iowa is traditionally an older state with an older population. And unfortunately, under some previous administrations in the governor's office, we haven't had that job creation that would attract young people. Now, over the last year, Governor Branstad was able to attract Facebook, was able to attract Google to make significant investments. And those are the kind of jobs that we need in Iowa that luckily we're going towards. But in the past, we've struggled in that category. But we've made great strides in property tax reform to make it easier for young couples to purchase a home and own a home in Iowa. We've got great schools, all the way from the K-12 level, and we've got great academics at the collegiate level as well. So I think Iowa is trending in the right direction, but it's not going to be overnight. We got to continue to make sound judgments in regards to tax policy, in regards to education, and bringing those cutting edge jobs to keep young Iowans here in Iowa.
Well, and I noticed that as we're comparing Iowa and Texas, Iowa has a much lower local government debt load than Texas. Yours is about half what ours is in Texas at 12.9%, whereas in Texas we are 25.9%. We're more than twice as much in local government debt as Iowa has. And of course, that's one of the economic indicators that has really given Texas a black eye, because the economic outlook for Texas is not so good because we have so much in local government debt. And that's really the one thing that seems to be pulling us down when it comes to economic freedom and our economy. But kind of moving away from comparing the two states, because it is hard to compare a smaller state, but one that is so clearly so powerful when it comes to our political, the whole presidential election, Iowa being a very powerful state. Let's kind of move away from the state comparisons and tell us a little bit about what Iowans look for when presidential candidates come to Iowa. What do they do, and do Iowans really feel like they want to get to know these candidates?
Absolutely. That's the biggest requirement that Iowans have, is they want to get to know you. They don't want you to fly into Des Moines or Cedar Rapids, give a speech, and fly out. They want you to talk to them in in their living rooms. They want you to talk to them in their coffee shops. They want to see you early, and they want to see you often. And that's the biggest thing. There's a joke saying, going around the last cycle that, well, I shook John McCain's hand 3 times. I guess I should vote for him. We expect people to show a lot of time and a lot of interest in Iowa. That's why when candidates tend to skip the state and move on to New Hampshire, South Carolina, or Florida, they suffer in Iowa for it. They pay a big price. And Iowans are very smart voters, and they pay attention to the issues, and they love to be able to ask these candidates where they stand. And it's something that Iowans take great pride in, and it's something that we'll continually to fiercely fight for first in the nation status.
Oh, you bet. That really is bragging rights. We Texans love to brag, but Iowa gets to brag about that. You need something to brag about.
Absolutely.
To say that. I'm Peggy Venable, and I'm here visiting with Mark Lucas, who is the Americans for Prosperity Director in Iowa. And you're watching Eye on Texas, and we are on Point Broadcasting. Now, let's talk just for a moment, if we can, about what's going on the end of this month with Americans for Prosperity, where we have our Defending the American Dream Summit. At the same time, we're having our Right Online, our social media annual event in right there in Orlando. And I know all of us will be there for that. I'm sure you're bringing some folks from Iowa.
Absolutely. We've got so far about 20 people from Iowa who've decided to make that journey down to Florida. And I've only been on board with AFP for a little over a year and a half.
Right.
And I went to my first summit last year, and it was an eye-opening experience to see some of our best grassroots activists all get together, see some great speakers. We're going to have Senator Ted Cruz, we're going to have Governor Rick Perry, we're going to have Senator Rubio, Michelle Malkin. We've got a great list of speakers, but I think one of the most rewarding things is to see these activists get together from all across the country and share their best practices or their lessons learned. For instance, Iowans can share about how we won the gas tax issue, and you can talk about your efforts here in Texas with education. You can all get together and share those best practices, which is really neat.
It is, and all of us love to have bragging rights on certain things. I will tell you, not besides Governor Perry and Senator Ted Cruz, we also will have 2 other Texans that you will recognize those names. We will have Texas Comptroller Susan Combs, who will be giving 2 workshops. She really is a trailblazer in transparency, and she's getting an award with that very title on there from Texas. It's really going to be a national award also, because Texas is the top state for government transparency. Did I mention that? One more thing to brag about. But we're excited to have her there, and On Point Broadcasting will be there, and we'll be broadcasting her workshops live. We'll also be putting those on the air. So our cameraman right here, Mitchell Hood, will be joining us at the Defending the American Dream Summit. We'll get him on the other side of the camera at some point soon. We're excited to have him there along with Laurie Bartlett, who is the producer of On Point TV. So we're excited that they will be there with us. We also will have the National Activist of the Year, who won the Unsung Hero Award last year by the Kriebel Foundation, or so designated by the Kriebel Foundation. With that award came a $25,000 award. I've never heard of any award that big for a grassroots activist. We're very excited. Jason Moore won that award last year. He is doing a show right here on Point TV, and I think it will be going live, I think from 5 to 7 maybe in the very near future. But he will be speaking and talking about how important it is to be an activist at the local level. As we often say, all politics is local, and you can't take back Washington, D.C. if you can't take back your own backyard, so to speak. So we'll be talking about how important it is for citizens to be engaged in their city, county, school district, and other local government entities, and how important that is, especially here in Texas where they carry so much debt, $342 billion in local government debt right here in Texas. So we'll be talking about that also. And I guess the key is, Mark, when at these summits we have around 2,000 activists who get together and get to hear a lot of great speakers, but we also get to network with other activists and hear lots of workshops on how we can all be more effective as we work the public policy issues that we care about. I think that's one of the important things about this summit. I'm going to be getting to moderate a panel on, I think it's something like schoolyard bullying. We're going to be talking about the educrats and what they're doing to bully us taxpayers. That's going to be a fun panel, and you're probably going to be involved in some training there also.
And one of the things that really excites me about it is that for young people, there's the conservative career fair. So they can bring their resume and they can learn more about the opportunities if they love to be an activist. But if they want to move towards doing politics full time, that they should bring their resume and hone in their interview skills and meet some great like-minded people that want those young people to take over their organizations.
You bet. That's a great point. We also are going to have a Radio Row there, and I was just on the radio this morning with one of the talk show hosts that will be on Radio Row, and I think we filled Radio Row this time. I think we have something like 25 or 30 talk show hosts that will be in one area where the major speakers and state directors like you and I get to talk to them about issues and things that are going on in our state. So I think we'll be getting a lot of radio time and a lot of FaceTime.
And it just helps spread our message to all 50 states when we have Radio Row, which is a great asset for us.
You bet, you bet. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Then we're going to be in Orlando.
Universal Studios, so if you want to bring the family and the kids, they'll have a great opportunity.
Right. That's right. That's right. Don't be getting any ideas, Mitchell, because we're going to keep you so busy behind the camera that you're not going to get to play that much. But we'll make sure we all have some fun to play while we're down there. I'm just kidding, Mitchell, because we're so excited that he's going to be there also. You know, at Americans for Prosperity, we have the great privilege of getting to wake up every morning and get to do as a vocation what most of us want to do as an avocation, and pursue the policies and issues that we care about. So we want to share that with other people, the enthusiasm that we have and that our key activists have. And we're going to also be honoring some of our activists and some of our elected officials there also. So I hope people that can come. We hope some of you are already planning to. We have a number of people from Texas who will be there, but it's not too late. You can go to defendingthedream.org and get more information about the seminar, about the summit, the end of this month, August 30 and 31st in Orlando. Or you can also go to the americansforprosperity.org website, and there you can see at the banner ad, we'll have some information at the top of the page about that. Now tell us what else you're working on in Iowa. What are some of the key issues that it seems like all of us care about, tax and spending and budget and regulatory issues, but what are some of your biggest challenges there in Iowa?
Well, I guess the biggest reason why I took the job to go to AFP was because of debt reduction. And I had the opportunity to serve my country overseas as an infantry rifle platoon leader along the Afghan-Pakistan border. And when I came home in 2011, my soldiers, like many other Americans, couldn't find work. The unemployment rate was skyrocketing, our deficit was skyrocketing. You had a United States Senate at the time that hadn't passed a budget in 3 years. So when I met with Alan Cobb, our former vice president, and he talked about the mission set, that struck a chord with me. So I wanted to really have my soldiers back, because they had mine, and try to bring more jobs to Iowa, bring better paying jobs to Iowa, and also just try to reduce this deficit. Because after coming home, I looked at the world that we lived in, and there's a lot of scary places in the world. And Afghanistan, Pakistan, you look at North Korea, you look at Iran, you look at the Horn of Africa, all these areas create major threats to the United States. But there's nothing that I think threatens this country more so than our national deficit. Because we can't fund the most sophisticated, the most advanced military in the history of the world if we don't stay on sound financial footing. So that's why the big spending campaign that we're doing in Iowa is going to all 99 counties. Talk about how we need folks in Washington, D.C. that put their country first. We've had generations of politicians, Republicans and Democrats alike, who are more concerned about their next election than their service to their country. And we need to rein in this spending. If we don't do it now, I'm not sure if we ever will be able to rein that spending in.
You make a great point. Let me just kind of share with our audience, the federal deficit is now $607 billion. Our current national debt is soon to hit $17 trillion. So we really do have a challenge. And I guess what I've been sharing with people in Texas as I've traveled the state is that this is the first generation that will be leaving the next generation worse off than we were left. It's the first time this has ever happened in our country, and I think it's really unconscionable.
Yeah, Peggy, I was showing you pictures of my daughter. I got a 3-month-old daughter, Layla.
I mentioned that.
And she was born May 4th with $52,000 worth of our national deficit. The average household in Iowa and across the country has $150,000 worth of national deficit.
Now, is she earning a salary yet?
No.
In 3 months? You
No.
don't have her working yet? Well, I know the unemployment rate is 7.4%, so that may explain some of it. But at 3 months, let's just say that again, she now owes the per individual a share of the national debt.
It's $52,000 per person.
Amazing. It's actually 52.8, almost $53,000 per person. Now that doesn't include unfunded public pension liabilities.
Yep.
That doesn't include local government debt. That doesn't include, there's so much that doesn't include. And we see a lot of attention being paid to the student loan debt today because colleges have gotten more expensive, even though a college education shouldn't be costing us more. The college, as more money is thrown at public institutions, they raise their tuitions, and kids now are graduating with a $24,000 to $27,000 student loan debt. So as we look at that, that is really has such negative ramifications on our economy, as these are people that as they graduate, it'll be longer before they can buy new cars, buy new houses, start buying their appliances, and really become the engine that drives our economy.
Well, I think President Obama and in Iowa, Congressman Bruce Braley are completely out of step. They're talking about offering more student loans to children to get better access to education. These kids don't need any more college deficits. They need a job. You see these young people who are graduating with a degree, having to move back at home with their parents, can't afford their own place, they can't find a job.
Right.
And then the answer to our woes is to offer more student loan debt. I think that what we need to do is fix this regulatory assault that's on companies. Right. We need to fix this deficit problem. We need people in D.C. and our state capitals to manage their budgets like we do here in Texas and back home in Iowa, because we can't spend more money than we take in. And unlike D.C.,
so
our credit cards have limits on them, and we can't raise the limit when we want to. Our bank will cut us off. So,
but D.C. seems to see no limit.
They have no limit.
They have no limit, and they aren't willing to limit themselves. So I do think there are ways that we can make college more affordable.
Yeah.
It's not that college isn't important or an education isn't important, but not every child needs a college education to be a contributing member of society. But we do need jobs, and we do need to, you're right, clear the regulatory barriers there. And Obamacare has become the major barrier to people getting full-time employment, hasn't it?
And we had a business roundtable of business professionals in Iowa, in Des Moines, Iowa, on healthcare with Senator Ron Johnson. And even though the employer mandate was delayed a year, these guys are trying to figure out what's Obamacare going to mean for them.
Right.
One business owner said that he owns several restaurants and hotels in Iowa. He went to his accounting agency and said, how much can I project this will cost me? And they said it's going to be between $500,000 to $5 million a year. He said, how do you plug that into a balance sheet? There's just so much uncertainty for businesses, so much uncertainty for young people. The people that will be impacted the most by Obamacare don't even want it, don't even need it. They're young folks who are going to be paying the stiffest penalties when they're not even certain if they need health care. And that's the biggest problem with Obamacare, in my estimation, is that we're making folks here in America pay for a service they don't want. And just the fact that the federal government come and say you have to buy this product, I personally think it's unconstitutional. The Supreme Court weighed in on that issue, but it's no doubt about it. It's going to have a huge impact on our economy. It's going to have a huge impact on service. Getting in between that patient and doctor relationship, which is so sacred, and then introducing another problem with, and by the way, the IRS is going to try to enforce this.
Oh, and we really trust the IRS, don't we? And I think another point that we might make is that so many young people, relatively healthy, that they have been able to purchase catastrophic care insurance at a much lower rate, And they're not going to have that opportunity now. They have to buy this one-size-fits-all that really fits no one plan and pay a lot more for it. And so we're certainly seeing the negative ramifications of that before this law is really even fully in place. So we at Americans for Prosperity want to see Obamacare, and will work to see Obamacare repealed. So that is really our number one issue. It should never have been enacted in the first place, and I think that the more people know about Obamacare, the less they like it, and that's what we're seeing. So we have been talking with Mark Lucas. He is the Iowa State Director of Americans for Prosperity. You're watching Eye on Texas, but yes, we also talk to other states, and my counterparts in other states are a great resource for information. I'm Peggy Venable, and I'm the Texas Director of Americans for Prosperity, and you're watching On Point Broadcasting. We are going to say goodbye for now and hope that you will join us again sometime soon. And Mark, thank you so much for taking time while you're here in Austin, a brief trip to Austin. We wanted to get you on the air while we had you for a few minutes. And thank you for being so willing. I literally just a few moments ago pulled him away from lunch and brought him up to the studio so we'd have a chance to visit.
Absolutely. It's great to be in Texas, too. Absolutely. Austin's an amazing city. I look forward to coming back again.
Well, and thanks to you, we're not breaking the triple digits today.
Absolutely.
Just in honor of you, we're going to stay below that 100 mark. But thank you for joining us, and thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Peggy.
Appreciate it.